This should be the last section in the packet that you have for this last printout. Section 2.7, solving for an unknown variable. This is really an interesting section, and a lot of people either struggle really bad with it or they don't. And it's definitely can be tricky, so it's probably better that you have this on recording. You can go back and watch it again if you want to. Okay, so basically what we're going to start off with for this one is a formula that you can use if you are converting temperature between two different units of measure, Fahrenheit and Celsius. So we are familiar with Fahrenheit. We use Fahrenheit in the US. In Canada, they use Celsius. And so it's a little bit different, and we have this formula that you can use. For this formula, you could plug in a number for Fahrenheit, and it would spit back at you whatever the Celsius version of that number is. But what if we wanted to change this formula so that you could input a number for Celsius and it spits out the Fahrenheit version of it? I know that we are kind of have been equipped with the ability to plug in a number and figure out how to get that number alone. But this time what we're going to do is we're going to change the formula so that it starts with F equals rather than starting with C equals. So what we're doing is we're solving this formula for F. Solve for F. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by writing my original formula here. C equals 5/9 times F minus 32. And I'm going to go through the process of getting F alone. And this process needs to start with me being able to undo this 5/9 that's outside of those parentheses. If this 5/9 goes away, those parentheses can go away also. Anytime you want to get rid of a fraction, you can multiply both sides by its reciprocal, and that will allow you to cancel the fraction out. So I am going to multiply this side by 9/5 and this side by 9/5, and that will allow me to cross-cancel the 9s and cross-cancel the 5s. The new version of my formula now is 9/5 C equals F minus 32. If I want to get F alone, all I have to do is cancel out this negative 32 by adding 32 to both sides. That will allow me to have F be alone. My new formula is F equals 9/5 times C plus 32. We've changed this formula to fit the problem that they gave us, which is if there is a body temperature of 100 degrees Fahrenheit or above, there's a fever. So if your patient has a temperature of 39 degrees Celsius, is that a fever? We don't know. We're going to have to plug in 39 for C to convert it to Fahrenheit so that we can interpret whether or not it fits the criteria for a fever, which would mean it would have to be 100 degrees or above. So I'm going to put this in my calculator real quick. After I put this in my calculator, I got 102.2. So if there is 100 degrees or above as a fever, this is a yes. That is a fever. So this is definitely one of the more challenging formulas to switch. So let's look at some examples that we have below this. Here we go again. There we go. Oh, I can't make it be there. Oh, perfect. Okay. So we are starting off with A equals LW. This is the formula, area formula for a rectangle. They want us to solve this for W. That means we want to get W alone. W and L are being multiplied. So if I want to get rid of the L, I got to divide both sides by L. Now we have solved for W. W is equal to A over L. I want you to remember, if you are looking at questions like this in my math lab, it's going to be super picky about case sensitivity. So if you have a capital, when you put this in your homework, you're going to want to make sure that that stays a capital, or else they're going to say you did it wrong. and that can be super frustrating. For B, P equals C plus M. They want us to solve for M. We need to get rid of this positive C, so we're going to do that by subtracting both sides by C. And there it is. M is equal to P minus C. I think that the one thing that a lot of people struggle with these is the fact that you're not actually solving an equation and ending up with a typical answer like x equals 4 or y equals 20. Instead, you're changing how these look, and you are making it so that it starts with whatever variable they're asking you to start it with. For like this next one, they're asking you to convert this so that we get L alone. So again, I'm doing that thing I do. I've got to get rid of the 2w. So I subtract 2w from both sides. So P minus 2w equals 2L. And I need to now get L alone. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. I want you to notice when I do that, I am dividing this entire side by 2. This is not just... I don't know if that's a really good highlighter. Maybe that's not supposed to be a highlighter. I'm not just doing part of it by 2. I'm going to multiply or divide the entire section by 2. So L is equal to P minus 2W over 2. I'm having issues here with this. I got to change it. Okay. I'm not even going to take the time to make that the right color. Okay, so that's a thing. I want you to take a minute, do D and E. Don't let E be intimidating. I know it looks like it is, but it shouldn't be. Don't let it be intimidating. Try it. Pause this. Come back. I actually have another example I want to try with you after this, so go ahead and take a minute. Okay, so for D, what you're going to do is you're going to start with the line. I have to have a nice, beautiful line or else I'm not happy. And I need to get rid of the 165, so I'm going to subtract 165 from both sides. So I have R minus 165 equals negative 0.75a. And if I want to get a alone, I have to divide both sides by this. And I know it doesn't feel very natural to have a negative symbol and a decimal and a fraction. But in this case, that's what they want you to have. They want this to look just like that. Beautiful. This is a decimal. And so that's something interesting, but that is it. Let's take a look back at C for a minute, because there was something I was thinking about that I thought is kind of important. Some of you might look at C and think that you could simplify this problem further here by canceling the 2's out with each other, and that is not something that you can do. You cannot break up a math sentence with terms. You cannot break it up and cancel something out of the middle of it. You have to leave this in this form. You can only cancel in certain situations, and this is not one of them. So make sure you're not shooting yourself in the foot by doing too much work with some of these trying to cancel things out. The last one here, you have V equals pi r squared h. This is actually the formula for the volume of a cylinder. They want us to solve for h, get h alone. H is being multiplied by pi and r squared. We just don't like to write the multiplication symbol. If you're undoing multiplying, that means you're dividing. So we're going to divide both sides by the things that we want to cancel out, the pi and the r squareds. So h is going to be equal to capital V over pi r squared. Yeah, that one looked like it was a lot harder than it was. Okay, so I want to give you another example to try really quickly. So this one is going to be y equals 2/3 x plus n. And the whole idea here is that we are going to solve this for x. I have to rewrite my 2 because it doesn't look like a 2. Okay, so we're going to solve for x. There's a reason why I'm doing this one with you, just so you know, because this has something that happens that a lot of people overlook, and I want to make sure that you're not one of them. I'm going to start by subtracting n from both sides. So I have y minus n equals 2/3 times x. I know that you're aware if you want to get rid of a fraction, they're being multiplied, you can multiply both sides by its reciprocal. Well, in this case, you are going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal, but the left-hand side of this has lots of stuff going on. So what I'm going to do is put a set of parentheses around it so that when I go ahead and I multiply both sides by the reciprocal, I'm making sure that what I'm being multiplied by will be applied all the way. So you have to have these parentheses here. It makes a big difference having those parentheses there. You can't just stick a 3/2 in front of the y and feel like you're done. You have to have a set of parentheses because that 3/2 doesn't just go with y, it also goes with that minus n. So that's super important. And I think that that is it for this section. If you have any questions, please, please, please post them on Schoology. Hopefully the weather gets better and we are back in the classroom together on Thursday. We have a quiz on Thursday. And that will be it for today. Have a great evening.